All right, guys. The next guest is one of our favorites to chat to. You know him from his excellent analysis, his high energy style, and of course the 1 minute breakdown, which we absolutely love over here at Submission Radio. He's here to help preview Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor, UFC 229. Robin Black, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
Hey, good. Yeah, I like you guys. I always like you guys. And I'm going to see you in Vegas, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's maybe some sneaky plans of us catching up together, and who knows, maybe some content as well. So much to talk about. Let's talk about UFC 229, obviously this big fight. Before we even talk about the main event, I know you love the psychological aspect of things, so do we. What did you make of the press conference that went down between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov? Did you think that someone got a mental edge? You know, a lot of people have different theories. Some say Conor McGregor won that one defiantly. Others say that Khabib didn't really sell anything and nothing really affected him. How did you feel about the press conference? Did you think he got to Khabib at all?
Well, I think I'm always curious about what it means and what we can learn from it and what we can learn from it for the greater understanding of what we're seeing and as it applies to fights. But I think it's really important to know that even if somebody had a mental breakdown and urinated in their pants and threw feces all over the stage and got arrested, it wouldn't necessarily mean anything on fight night.
Sure.
And I think that's really important to remember. It is very cool for us, for the fans, for people who are connected, to have some connection to a team, to feel our team. And it can affect on the night. It can. But it can also not. Or these things are also not binary. It isn't like either someone won and someone lost, or someone was in someone's head and someone wasn't. It's all shades of gray, and it's all very, very, wide range of possibilities. But so when we take that away and we look at it, it's like, what is happening and what's happening in any meaningful way? And first of all, there's two things that we'll look at Conor because he's the instigator and he's the guy who seems to have a purpose, not because we think he's more important or anything like that. But he goes in, he has two purposes, and he clearly sets out with these. One is to make us engaged and talk and sell tickets and make money. And the other one is to attempt to create some type of meaningful change in thought or mindset or emotion of his opponent that may affect him on fight. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are the two things. The one, he's fucking 100%. He bats a million every time. We notice it, we quote it, we make websites dedicated to what are his funniest or more interesting things. We buy things because of it. We talk about it. He murders that. The other one is harder to decipher, and it's harder to compare. But for the most part, we often say everyone has been affected in one way or the other by the mental chips that he puts into the game. And we'll often say, with the exceptions of Nate Diaz and Floyd Mayweather. Mm-hmm. However, if you got a chance to talk to Nate Diaz and Floyd Mayweather one day long into the future when they have no desire, because what people would say in interviews, as you guys know, is often what is best helpful to them, to their career, to the fight coming up, to money, all types of things. But if they were going to give you the truth, they might even say, to be honest with you, as Nate and Floyd Mayweather, as experts in the field themselves, that they might have said, normally we're affected to a 2, but with this crazy motherfucker, we were affected to a 4. Do you know what I mean? So it's all very varied to say Nate wasn't affected or, Eddie Alvarez was affected. It is never like that. What it is all of these shades of percentage and degrees, and everything matters, but in the right circumstance, none of it matters at all.
Yeah.
What I'm saying by that is the way that Jose Aldo behaved in the cage mattered. He was put to sleep 13 seconds later. The way Eddie Alvarez behaved in the cage mattered. He's a guy who never hesitated, who never did the wrong things, who never walked into a cage saying, I will do a lot of this and very little of that, and did the opposite. Dustin Poirier, it mattered, and he said it mattered. Chad Mendes talked about feeling fatigued. We don't know whether he felt it mattered. So it matters in that sense. The question is how much of it affects you on fight night. And that's something that outside of being a fan or using the instead of being able to answer how much it matter, what we usually do is answer a heuristic of the question. The question is, how much did this mental game matter? We don't have the answer to that. It's too complicated, so we find a heuristic of a simpler question, which is, who do we like more? And if you like Conor, you show footage of the brief seconds where Khabib seemed engaged, and you say, see, he got into his head. And if you like Khabib, you show the long moments of Khabib having no effect, and you show that to support your evidence. The truth is, there's some effect. We just don't know how much it is, and we don't know how to measure it, and we don't know how it will carry over on fight night. And this in no way undermines the beauty of it, or the interest of it, or how interesting it is to us, the fans. I'm just trying to truth you a little bit here.
Yeah.
Another aspect that I thought was really interesting, it was the research that he did.
Yeah.
Again, you might assess Khabib and say, he's cold, he is mentally strong, fucking guy fought a bear when he was 8 years old. You know what I'm saying? So we can't just use the surface things. We must go to those places that some people would say is over the line, or some people would say is out of bounds, or is unsportsmanlike. That's where you must go if you have any hopes of affecting this guy. You must go to the places that other people don't go. Talk about his father, question his allegiance to his country and to his people, try to undermine and use the relationship between Chechens and Dagestanis that dates back many, many generations. Even Conor McGregor, who I think we've seen plenty of evidence that he lives sort of a humanist view of the world, talking about how the key to winning this may be, he's pointing to the heavens and saying, well, Jesus Christ will help me with this. Sorry, I'm just walking over here for a second.
It's all right.
And he's saying Jesus Christ will be, as Jesus Christ is my whatever, and saying that that's a key to it. Conor's never referenced Jesus Christ or anybody else before, except to say gods recognize gods. He said that knowing that his opponent is a very strong Muslim. He also offered him alcohol. Like, all of this was calculated. All of this was calculated, and that makes it fascinating. Did it have any effect? None of us are qualified to say that. But what we do is we cheer for the person we like. So we say Conor did nothing, or we say Conor got into his head. The truth is, we don't know. But what we do know is that guy came in with a ton of research, a ton of preparation, a ton of knowledge, and an a seemingly unsportsmanlike, according to what we believe, approach. And he was fearless in the way that he tried to use it.
Couple of things. I think when it comes to sportsmanship, I think the boundaries are very much further when it comes to MMA, because at the end of the day, it's not a ball sport. It's two people fighting. What you say, I think, is nothing compared to what you're going to do potentially to someone in the cage. And I think it also highlighted just how important it is for Conor to get a mental edge over his opponent. Whether he does or doesn't is irrelevant, but it's important for him to at least try, and that's what he's doing. It's no fluke, it's no coincidence, it's not just to sell a fight. He's doing this to get every advantage possible. But looking at the fight itself, Robin, I'm curious, because here's the interesting thing. Both Conor and Khabib, they like to press forward aggressively in order to force their opponents against the cage. We saw Conor McGregor do that to Chad Mendes, who, even though he is the wrestler and forward pressure could be used against guys like Conor, like strikers, he did that there. He loves to get his opponents against the cage. Khabib likes to do the same thing because he wants that clinch. Who do you think will be able to press forward and land and sort of implement their game plan more effectively and back the other guy up against the fence?
I think if you're Conor McGregor, you're spending a lot more time backing up, which he did against Nate in the second fight, which he did obviously in the moments of Aldo. I think you're spending a lot more time backing up. Because to press forward, now when he did it against Mendes, and so I do a one-man show, and I did one in Dublin, and John Kavanagh was my guest, and he talked about how moments of fights happen, and he talked about how in the moment of Chad Mendes, when whatever was left, 35 seconds was left in a fight, and he says as they got back to their feet, there's an unspoken semi-agreement that will happen between two fighters, where they'll both take a step back. Maybe they'll glance up at the clock, maybe they won't. But on some level, they'll be like, we both came in here, we fought really hard, we're both really tired. And maybe it was less, maybe it was 15, 18, 20 seconds, I don't know. We're both really tired, so we're going to separate here. We're going to take a deep breath. Maybe we'll throw a flurry at the end, and the round will end. And that's what is done, and that's what is naturally done, and that's what both of us want to naturally do, and we'll both do it. Conor got up, and as John described it at the time, he said, in a fight, there's often a moment where there's a guy who's tired and a guy who's pretending he's not tired. In other words, is also tired and not pretending he's not tired.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy who's scared and a guy who's pretending he's not scared. And he said in that moment, as Chad backs up, the natural thing would be Conor would back up, and instead he pushed forward and he selected the exact weapon, a stabbing toe to the body, to also further sap you. And then he was able to press. And when he presses against the cage, he doesn't press straight forward. He comes forward and curves slightly, forcing you out to the side. So he throws that left hand as you circle off of the cage. So it is a very different scenario, but it's only in occasions that he uses it. In this case, much more likely, a lot of McGregor's activity is backing up. And if Khabib doesn't move forward, it is only meeting where he was and waiting till Khabib moves forward and backs up again. So I think in this fight, McGregor backs up. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's what he'll want to do. I think it's what he'll do. I think also a really fascinating part for me is when you look at the way that Tony Ferguson wanted to fight Khabib and face the wrestling. I think it is a better approach than most other people have taken. I've got a little thing. We're doing something on YouTube here today. You know, this looks like a bunch of circles because it is. But basically, we often say, you got to close the distance, and then you wrestle a guy, and then you take him down. And back in the day, we would say, I'm striking, and you want me on the ground, so it'll come down to the wrestling, as if that's one thing. What in actual fact will happen is you must close the distance. Then when you close the distance, you must get a hold of me. Then once you get a hold of me, you must initiate some sequence of events that will try to take me off my feet. And then this is the most important spot. Then I will offer resistance. Back in the day, you took me down. It was like you shot a single, you got a single, and I pulled guard. Or you shot a double, you got a double, and now I pulled guard. Today, instead, we fight to get back up. We don't surrender the situation. So you close the distance, you get a grip, you initiate some game of putting the guy to the ground, and then here we resist hard and don't surrender the position. And then either the guy takes the position or you surrender it, usually both. Those two things are interchangeable based on your resistance and his attempt. And then you end up in a position like Khabib does, where he beats the shit out of you until he destroys you for the rest of the round. There's many steps. This is the step where he takes over. The step where you push away. In the old days, you'd pull guard, or the old days, you'd wrap it up, or the old days, you'd fight from the bottom. Today, you either move to 4 points, or you offer your back, or you split your stance, or you go to a post, or whatever. There's a lot of things today that we do instead to get back to our feet, and that's where Khabib controls you, and that's where Khabib destroys you. And Tony's approach, which was told to me at length by Eddie Bravo going into it. There's a breakdown that I did, and it's Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. I did it. If you put my name in those, you'll see it. It's about 5 minutes of my old style of breakdown. Fight never happened, but we looked at it at length. And Eddie Bravo's approach was, instead of turning away or fleeing that position where we resist giving it up, we'll accept the guard position, or we'll accept and fight head on from the ground. I don't know if that'll work. I don't know if Conor McGregor can do that. I don't know if he will do that. I don't know if he will consider it. But since everybody who tries to resist the position ends up getting dominated because Khabib will destroy you when you resist the position, maybe it's better to face it head on. To me, that's the most fascinating aspect of this entire fight. At some point, you get held. And here's the thing. Again, Khabib closes the distance. He gets a hold of you. He initiates some game to take you to the ground. You resist. He mangles you. If he doesn't get a hold of you, he goes back and he tries it again. And if he doesn't, he goes back and he tries it again. And if he gets a hold of you, but then you break, he goes back, close the distance, get a hold of you. If he gets a hold of you, closes the distance, gets a hold of you, begins, you break, he goes back again and again and again and again and again and again forever. If at some point in the process of that, Conor knocks him out, well, that's over. If Conor does not do that, then it happens again and again and again and again. And inevitably, he will get you down, and he will initiate his game of dominating you for having the gall to move away and resist his attempts to manage you. To me, that's the most fascinating part of this fight. And to me, that's an inevitability, is you face that position, and do you face it head on like Tony was planning to do, or do you move away from it like everyone else has failed trying to do? And I think that's the most interesting part of this fight. And to me, that's the most interesting part of fighting Khabib in the first place. If Conor lands an enormous hand and hurts him or knocks him out, well, this is all going to be irrelevant. But I don't know that you can just assume that. So instead, you're expecting to see this, and nobody's unbeatable, and nobody's unstoppable. And, nobody, no matter how good you are at managing the distance and landing your left hand, you can be beaten in that case. And no matter how good you are at controlling and dominating on the ground, there is a way to beat you. And those are the parts that matter to me. And those are the parts that I'm fascinated and dying to see. And we don't have answers. And answers are not found in the heuristic of replacing who's going to be able to implement their thing, which is an unanswerable question, with who do you like more? And then you say it, and then you find supportive things to argue it. That's what we do in the world. That's what they'll do on UFC on Fox. That's what they do on CNN. That's what they do on an NFL broadcast. That's what we do in television that is harmful to our society, because people just fucking argue on Twitter about it. The reality is we don't know. And the reality is, holy fuck, I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll tell you what, Robin Black, if you were my science teacher and you had diagrams like that, I think I'd do a lot better in school. It's absolutely fascinating. You put it very, 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 very clearly. And we're excited to see you during fight week, because I feel like we'll be picking your brain throughout fight week to see what you think. Guys, make sure to check out Robin Black, obviously at Robin Black MMA on Twitter. Check out his YouTube channel, Robin Black MMA. And just quickly, Robin, as we let you go, just a couple of things people can look forward to. It's a huge fight. Your breakdowns are legendary. We know you're going to be there during fight week. We're very excited to meet you. But as a fan, what can I expect on the old YouTube channel? Because we know you have a lot of really, really good content.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, or probably around the same time as this is up, I've got 2 hours of analysis, a little deeper version. And in fact, I think I may have explained it even more concisely with you guys now, because I've been playing with this.
Excellent. No need to put it out. We'll just use this video.
Yeah, exactly. And I looked at the mechanics of Conor McGregor's. To me, honestly, I'm at a point where I've faced frustration and friction, because I know that when I talk to the highest level coaches or fighters, or analyze the work that they're doing, it's this incredibly beautiful, complex thing that we have done in the world of analysis and broadcasting. We have been incredibly disrespectful, assuming our audience can't understand it. And I felt a lot of friction and a lot of pressure, a lot of stress to try to find answers to that. And so my game now is to dismiss our old mechanisms, predicting fights, striker versus grappler, stylistic matchup. We've been using the same verbiage since 1998, and the world changed a million times, and our understanding has changed, and fighting itself has changed. And there's a reality happening in fighting, and then there's the complete nonsense that is being presented every day in every broadcast in the fight world. And my job is to find a way to take that truth and explain it in a way that can be understood. And that's what I'm going to do every single day on my YouTube channel and Instagram at Robin Black MMA and Twitter at Robin Black MMA. That's my job now. That's my job as I see it for the next 5 years. And not everybody wants that, and not everybody's going to be a fan of that. A lot of people like things the way they are, and a lot of people don't like new ideas and new verbiage, no matter how accurate it might be. And that's too bad, because that's what I do, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I mean, we love it, and we know a lot of our listeners love it as well. And big fans of the 1 minute breakdown. That's good. I think the 1 minute breakdown is universally loved. So we can't wait to see you for UFC 229 in Vegas, Robin. It's going to be great, and I'll definitely chat some more fighting. Thank you so much for jumping on the program. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys, and we will enjoy the hostilities, and we'll try to enjoy some of that fucking proper 12 when we're down there.
Yeah, if we can afford it, yeah. Thanks, Robin.
The first one's on me.
Excellent. We'll definitely afford it then.
See you guys there.